Hey folks, welcome to this edition of the Handy Randy Show. I want to thank my friend Bob Teodesio from Cuyahoga Falls, he's a deputy register, for making arrangements for some pretty important people from Columbus to visit the Handy Randy Show today. Kathy Pritchard, welcome to the Handy Randy Show, Kathy.
Thank you.
From Columbus, you have in charge of the reinstatement program that we're going to talk about today because it's very new, and actually even the courts in our area aren't very familiar with that. And the state registrar, Mike Rankin.
Randy?
Mike, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
And when it comes to BMV, there's a lot of gray area, a lot of questions and what I'd like to do on the program today is address some of those most common issues, that an opportunity for you to go right to the folks in Ohio and say, you know what, here's a chance for me to tell you some of those things, those common questions. I have a million of them, but I'm going to probably just turn the program over to you, Mike, and say, look, there's a lot of things going on in our state. The governor kept you on, which is surprising in some ways for that to happen.
He asked me to come back to this job after I had left to be Assistant Secretary of State, and I was all set to go back to the practice of law. But Randy, let me just say on behalf of Governor John Kasich, on behalf of Ohio Public Safety Director John Bourne, who's my boss, and everyone from your Ohio BMV, and I say your, and I think Kathy would agree with me, because the BMV belongs to everybody. We were created by state statute in the legislature in 1906, and we started as an agency officially in 1908. So we have 105 years of history serving the people of Ohio, but we are very unique. We're unique from every other federal or state or local government agency in that we are a true public-private partnership, and people hear that term a lot. What we mean by that is we have 190 roughly deputy registrars who are all private business persons under contract with the state of Ohio. They're not state employees. They pay for their own employees. They pay their own rent. They pay all their overhead and costs. All they do is collect $3.50 a transaction, and that is what they make. But they do a marvelous job. We also have about 700, give or take, BMV state employees that back up and support the deputy registrars. And by law, you have to have a deputy in every county. And of course, the larger counties have more than one deputy to assist them in their business. You can go online now and do an awful lot of BMV from vehicle registrations and the like. You can also go and by mail order your registrations. But I got to tell you, when you do that, you're actually hurting, and I will use that word, hurting, a local deputy registrar. You're taking food off of their plate. And if you like great customer service, and I got to tell you what we're really excited about, since I came back, we've been tracking customer satisfaction levels. And last year in 2012, and this is based on surveys people can do either online or by phone. And Randy, they can only vote once, okay? And we don't give away gift cards.
No big screen TV for Bob?
Nope. We don't give away gift cards to fill out these surveys. But when you think that 97.2% of all Ohioans said they like the service they get from their BMV, and in 2011 it was 96%, so the number is going up. We're operating with less funding than we had before. Again, tightening the budget belt, doing what everyone else has to do, and we're doing things better. Really reaching out, and I got to tell you, the thing that really has me jazzed up today is the fact that Senate Bill 337 was passed with bipartisan support, Democrat and Republican legislators. The governor was fully behind it, and it did a number of things. But for the BMV and for the people of Ohio, it really has helped people, for instance, who owe reinstatement fees. on any given time, out of our 7.9 million licensed Ohio drivers, not quite 1 million can be under a license suspension. And it's not always for bad driving. About 20 of the 45 ways to lose your license in Ohio have nothing to do with the quality of your driving. You might owe child support. You may not have had insurance at the time that you were stopped. So what this new law does for people, especially who owe reinstatement fees of $150 or more, and believe me, people are going to drive whether they're under suspension or not. They've got to get to work. They've got to find work. They've got to, go to the grocery store. They got to, pick up their relatives, what have you. So what we've tried to do is use the philosophy of let's get people valid. And right today, we have over close to 5,000 Ohio drivers who used to drive under suspension. They are now valid. And here's the kicker. They now have insurance, because the only way you can sign up for our payment plan is to show proof of insurance. And we say payment plan, Randy, because you have people out there, and I know $150 doesn't sound like much, but if you're trying to piece together a couple jobs and pay your rent and pay your gas and your food and your other bills, that can be a lot of money. And we have people that owe several $1,000s that have just been blown away by the fact, hey, I can come into any deputy registrar, sign up and pay $50 and show proof of insurance and be valid again. Never have had anything like that. It's what I call very common sense, and that's what's got me excited. We're in an age, at least in Ohio, I can't say that for Washington, but I can at least say in Ohio, we've got a governor and administration that really is focused on how can we do the most and the best for the people of Ohio. And I got to tell you, I lived and worked in Youngstown, Ohio back in the early 90s. And as I come to Northeast Ohio now versus back then, I see a lot more economic activity. But we still have a long way to go. But getting people valid to drive so they can find work, get back to work, and not be afraid about getting stopped and arrested and the car towed and we're tying up court time, jail time, police time. No, we want to focus our resources of our courts and police on the more serious offenders, not on people who owe child support and they're really trying to find work and they have a suspension. I mean, my gosh. So I know I've rambled on
that's
just
great.
a little
It's
bit much.
All wonderful information. As a matter of fact, you had mentioned Senate Bill 337, which is new, and it plays into Kathy's strike zone.
Yes.
And we're going to take a look at briefly just a little bit of what that is, and it's more than just reinstatement. And it's a wonderful Senate bill. We want to give credit to whomever brought that to the Senate. But let's take a look at that, and then when we come back, we're going to find out how Kathy is holding you in the palm of her hand, and she's smiling about it right after this.
Senate Bill 337. It's the Collateral Sanctions Act, which was proposed to alleviate the hindering effects collateral consequences have on people obtaining gainful employment, and will make it easier for Ohioans to maintain and/or seek employment requiring a valid license. What Senate Bill 337 allows is it's going to allow a person to go to a court in which their local municipal court or county court that they were put under a child support suspension and petition for driving privileges. Now the court will require the petitioner to take a non-certified copy of their driving record. They will also require the petitioner to provide proof of financial responsibility. Now the court is also responsible to request the opinion of the child support agency before granting those driving privileges. Once a court grants limited driving privileges for a child support suspension, they must issue a driving permit to the petitioner to drive on. Senate Bill 337 also eliminates the failure to file an accident report suspension. The BMV 3303 form, the accident report has been eliminated, and that is current today. That requirement is no longer required, and it is because it is a no insurance suspension, therefore it is a duplication. Senate Bill 337, it changes the first non-compliance suspension from 90 days to indefinite or to compliance. This is really a very important step for all of us. What it is going to do is it will allow a person to immediately restore their driving privileges. The suspension will no longer be a 90-day suspension, but will be to compliance. So if a person is under a pending non-compliance and they reinstate their driving privileges by filing their bond or SR-22 and paying their $150 reinstatement fee, they will not be put under suspension. Their driving license status will remain valid. Now this also includes the random selection non-compliances. This will eliminate the need for people to apply to the court for limited driving privileges. It's also going to allow the CDL driver to reinstate immediately. Now the FRA, 3-year FRA requirement will still be mandatory. Do I have any questions? If you have any questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to ask.
When is that effective?
This is effective on September 26th. 4th, I'm sorry. September 24th.
Hey, welcome back. We have two officials from Columbus. Now, Mike took a way to get there. He started in Toledo, went to Youngstown, and ended up as a Buckeye. As a matter of fact, you were a Rocket and now a Buckeye, so
Correct.
They played each other occasionally.
Occasionally they do, and I have to tell you, both football teams I think are doing pretty good.
So now, Kathy, we're just kidding with you, but this reinstatement program means a lot, as Mike had mentioned before, can be pretty expensive. And for a person, today's economy, tight budgets, could prohibit someone from getting their license and causes them to drive illegally.
Absolutely. And what this new program does is, we did a couple things with the collateral sanctions bill, Senate Bill 337, is with the first-time non-compliance. Previously, a person had to, they had a 3-month suspension. They could get driving privileges, but they weren't valid. Now we've changed that first-time non-compliance suspension to indefinite, which means as soon as you pay your reinstatement fee and file your insurance, you're valid. So there's no longer having to get driving privileges from the court. You're valid right away. The other thing is, previously, the third or subsequently after time you got stopped for driving without insurance, you had a 2-year hard suspension and you could not get driving privileges. And that was very harmful. You could not go to the court. You could not, no one could give you those privileges. So you had people out there still driving because they did have to work. Now a person after 30 days can get driving privileges.
Common sense.
Common sense.
Just like this thing with the alimony and taking away driving privileges to someone that really wants to keep their job in order to make the payments. The old law was archaic and took away the right to drive, therefore took away the right for a livelihood. Didn't make any sense. Somebody actually did the right thing.
Right, and Randy, we have in Ohio about 196,000 licensed drivers who at any given time have been under a child support suspension for non-payment of child support. And remember, majority of those people aren't intentionally avoiding payment of child support. They're actively looking for jobs. Now, Senate Bill 337 gives the courts, whatever court entered the judgment entry of support, whether it's domestic court or juvenile court in Ohio. Those courts can now grant driving privileges so those people can get to work or can look for work, because we know with the crash of '08 and really the downturn before that, there's a lot of Ohioans who are still trying to find their footing in the new economy, and it's difficult. It takes a while to go back into job retraining and get your degree. You're not going to do it in a year or two. It might take 3 or 4 years, but I think we really are on the cusp here in Ohio of seeing a lot of good things happening in terms of despite what's going on in Washington, is putting us in a much better place. And again, I never realized until I was appointed 6 years ago how many areas that this touches. And I'm talking trade and commerce. Believe it or not, the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles regulates all of the interstate trucks that are operated here in Ohio. We regulate almost 10,000 new, used, and leasing truck and car dealers. We're responsible for collecting about $500 million, that's with a B, Randy, that eventually goes out to 2,300 local governments for road repaving, for bridge repairs. So what we do, and by the way, compared to other states, because sometimes people say, oh, I had to pay $25 to renew my driver's license. Well, trust me, we're in the middle or lower half of the country. Ours is not the most expensive. Same way on registering a passenger vehicle. I think the top end is about maybe $56, $57, depending on whether or not you get the new license plates. We came out, by the way, with the new Ohio license plates last spring. They're Ohio State colors, kind of, but not really. But they're very attractive. And those plates are now available if you want to come in and get them from any deputy registrar. We also, by the way, are responsible for helping people whose identities have been stolen, and most Ohioans don't know this. And I'm just going to digress here a little bit. Identity theft just continues to escalate, and many times local police departments and even prosecutors' offices don't have the resources or ability to deal with that, but we do. We have over 50 investigators in about 6 regional offices statewide, and they focus on that. They focus on title fraud, odometer fraud, and so if you have a vehicle title issue, call us first before you call a lawyer. Even though I am one, we can probably save you money by, reviewing the whatever the problem is first, and might be able to correct it without having to hire a lawyer.
Thanks. Again, so many questions. Vanity plates, registering vehicles. It just goes. The list goes on and on. Before we go back to this video that explains some of these things, I premised the conversation, Kathy, with saying that their life is in your hand. Do you actually have a case file that lands in front of you on your desk that you have to make decisions on?
Actually, what I do is I oversee there's 7 regional reinstatement offices throughout the state, and my offices assist over 400,000 Ohioans annually. And those customers come into our office, and I call it, they get one-to-one, face-to-face counseling, driver license counseling, where each person is provided everything they need to do in order to get their license back, or what they need to do to be eligible for the fee payment plan.
Excellent. So we're going to go back to this video again, and I have a couple questions when we get back. And you know me, that might be out of left field, so get ready, strap them on.
Senate Bill 337, it also allows the court to grant driving privileges after 30 days for a third-time non-compliance suspension. Currently, this is a 2-year mandatory suspension, hard suspension with no driving privileges. So the court may grant limited driving privileges on the 31st day from the beginning of the suspension date. The reinstatement fee and the SR 22 filing are required. Now, this will also include any suspensions, third, fourth, non-compliant suspensions that are current when the bill takes effect. So if a person is already under, they're under a 2-year suspension and already have complied with a year of that suspension, they will be eligible for driving privileges. Senate Bill 337 allows the registrar, with approval of the director, to adopt rules establishing a BMV fee payment plan. The implementation target date is January 1st, 2013. This one has been, because of the detail that needs to be the business rules and programming, this one will take effect in January. This is exciting because participants' license status who are in compliance with the BMV fee payment plan will be valid. A person who is under a failure to reinstate may petition the BMV for a fee payment plan. There's a minimum of $50 payment per month. All requirements have to be met. They're not eligible if they're under a pending non-compliance or a pending suspension. But once they comply with making the $50 reinstatement fee per month, have all the requirements met, and are on the plan, their status is going to be valid. They will not have to have limited driving privileges. If a person is under a court BMV fee payment plan currently, we would have to have an entry from the court terminating the BMV or terminating the court fee payment plan. The court fee payment plan does supersede the BMV fee payment plan once it becomes effective January 1st. Senate Bill 337 allows a person under a lifetime suspension to apply to the sentencing court for modification or termination of the suspension after 5 years under certain circumstances. A person may petition the sentencing court for modification or termination if at least 5 years have elapsed since the suspension began, have not been convicted of any offense involving a motor violation, have not been convicted of an offense involving a moving violation in the past 5 years, must provide proof of financial responsibility. If the suspension was imposed by an OVI conviction, the person must successfully complete a treatment program, and they have to provide proof that they have not abused alcohol or any other drugs for a period of satisfactory to the court, and they have not been found guilty of any alcohol-related or drug-related offense in the past 15 years. Senate Bill 337 also allows the court to substitute community service sanctions in lieu of driving suspensions for the following offenses: soliciting, theft of gasoline from a retail seller, your gas stations, illegal conveyance of a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance into a school safety zone, consumption or beer or intoxicating liquor in a motor vehicle by a person less than the age of 18, giving false information in order to purchase or otherwise obtain beer or intoxicating liquor by a person who is less than 21 years of age, and trafficking in cigarettes while using a motor vehicle.
Some years ago, on a beautiful sunny Sunday, I'm driving to Columbus Motor Speedway to watch Kenny Schrader race. There's hardly anyone on the expressway in Columbus. I'm driving along, and everyone else on the expressway, by the way, in Columbus is passing me because I'm doing the speed limit. And I noticed the state highway, no, actually it was a Columbus cop, by the way, sitting on the inside, and I drive past him going, boy, that guy's probably busy because there's so many people speeding today. And he comes up behind me. Guess what? I'm driving my Grand Prix that I didn't want to put the front fascia bracket on. My mistake. And I paid dearly. was about $90 for that mistake. And guess what I did? I put my front plates on. Maybe I could have just put them in the front window, but that's kind of pushing the issue. So, Mike, my question to you is we have neighbor states all around us that don't have front plates. I would think it would save us a lot of money by only issuing a rear plate. And my car would look better too, by the way.
Randy, I think you have stated the case well. In fact, this last legislative session, the vote was pretty close. They almost eliminated the front plate. And I can certainly empathize with the folks out there. Again, it's a law enforcement issue. Whatever the state legislature says is the law, then the BMV and the law enforcement folks have to follow that. But as I said during the break, since the early 70s, every legislative session, someone has put a bill forth to eliminate the front plate. And probably 19 to 20 states do not have a front plate, but it seems that law enforcement has weighed in on this all over the country and said, look, we solve a lot of hit-skip accidents, and unfortunately we see every day in the news where somebody, kills somebody, leaves the scene, or causes a serious accident, leaves the scene. And they've been able to solve a lot of these hit skips by finding the front plate there left at the scene, or finding the imprint, on someone or on an object at the scene.
Or the bumper that was attached to the chain, attached to the ATM
that
was left at the scene.
There you go. But also license plate readers, which have become a fact of life. I think there's over 500 patrol cars in Ohio, and I say local PD mainly, sheriff's departments. Those are constantly reading the plates, and not so much looking for traffic offenders as they are fleeing felons. And those have been very effective. And they've had them on the turnpike for many, many years and have solved homicides, robberies, and a bunch of crimes. So if you eliminate that front plate, law enforcement would say, hey, you're really doing the people a disservice. What does it actually save? It saves a little under $2 million, which is really pretty much a drop in the bucket when you consider a biennial state budget is somewhere at about, $57 billion, $56 billion for a 2-year operating budget. But I think it will always be, rise to the surface as it has for the last 40 years. And whatever the legislature decides, we'll do.
Thank you. And then finally, the last question, and Kathy, I'm going to let you play with this one. The historic vehicle plates. And I have them on both of my vehicles. Actually, one of them I was able to go to Bob's place and give him the 1937 plate that was actual for my car. Real simple, very inexpensive, and I'm allowed to put that plate on my vehicle. However, I see some cars driving to work, driving to McDonald's. As a matter of fact, I know of one case where it's a dump truck that has historic plates on it, an 87 one-ton dump truck. At some point in time, someone has to draw the line and say, and again, a law enforcement issue, firstly, tell us.
Yeah, that would be a law enforcement call. The historical plates are only supposed to be used on vehicles that are being taken to car shows, or driving to and from car shows, possibly. A lot of times you see these historical cars driving down the road and maybe doing a jaunt to a community event, that type of thing. But those are the only times those vehicles with historical plates are to be used. And it's up to law enforcement to issue a citation or a warning telling these people that they're not supposed to be using a car day by day for their normal going to the store, working.
And it's taking money away from a state,
It is.
taking money away from Bob Teodosio. And we want to again thank Bob for inviting you up here. I know you're going to go to another meeting right after this where this same thing is going to be discussed with our local lawmakers.
Correct. And Randy, again, thank you for having us on the show today. But I think if you talk to any police officer out there, we have over 900 police agencies operating in the state of Ohio. If you talk to anyone in the court system, if you talk to, again, any one of our customers out there, 97% of all Ohioans say BMV is doing a great job, and our goal is to get that number up there to 100%. But we really, and I want to leave you and your viewers with this, the tone starts at the top. And it really, I think, starts with the governor, the safety director, on down to the directors of the various agencies. And let me just tell you what our philosophy at BMV is. In a nutshell, it's treat everyone the way we would like to be treated. You do that, you are exercising confidence, you're giving people confidence, you're using competence, you're giving good information, and even if it's not in our area, we won't tell you, sorry, can't help you. We will get you to the right area. And to me, that's giving good service. And I sit with my 70 or so telecom operators at least once a month, and I can't tell you, they're managing between 85 and 150 calls per operator per day. And these are complicated questions that cause them to look at the databases to get good information to our customers. They do a fantastic job. And I am just proud at how many of our customers say thank you. And they write into us and say, hey, of all the government agencies out there, you really have helped us the most. And that's people all over the country. We have soldiers and their families deployed all over the world that we help. We have people that travel. For instance, Bobby might have a customer that oh my God, I got to get on a plane and my driver's license is expired. Heck, he'll open early so that he can get your driver's license printed off before you go to the airport. To me, that's the kind of customer service that we want to deliver at your Ohio BMV. And again, thanks for letting us be here today.
Thank you very much. And Bob Teodosio, you may get some phone calls now at 4:30 in the morning. And hope you learned something. We'll do this again sometime, and we'll talk about vanity plates and what you can get away with, okay? Some other time on the Handy Randy Show. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you right here on the Handy Randy Show next week.